2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this Wonder Twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as tomorrow's legends.
Flash, what are you doing?
I'm just shaking off some rust, Harley. It's been a few months since we recorded.
Well, you should have just said something. I could help knock some of that rust off.
Already with the hammer, Harley?
And now, here are your hosts, the fleet-footed Flash and his hammer-swinging partner, Harley Quinn.
Welcome back, Legendaires. This is the Flash.
And I'm Harley Quinn.
And we're here to bring you a preseason kickoff episode.
Yeah, we have some news to cover, a little character analysis, a brief review of Season 2, and then finally we're going to take a look at the upcoming Season 3.
Man, it is so good to be back on the Wave Rider. I can't wait to get into the time stream.
I know, I'm so excited. There's so much to talk about and so much coming up this season. I cannot wait.
Oh, especially with the way the show left us hanging. I mean, what a way to end the season, and with, time all messed up and dinosaurs and modern time cityscapes and wow.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, it's like, all right, so how do we deal with this? Where are we going? What has just happened?
Well, we're going to be able to get into all of that in a little bit. But first, we asked you guys a couple questions very recently on our Facebook page. So we just wanted to kind of share some of the results that came. One of our questions we asked was, which feature segment do you want to keep hearing? And the top two actually was Quote of the Week, which we kind of figured. And a lot of people actually asked about news, and because we never really covered a lot of news before, and sometimes during the season there really isn't a lot released, but sometimes the things that are released is really heavy on the spoiler front, which we've tried to avoid. So I think this season we will try to, dig a little deeper and see if there is any news coming up. I mean, we have a lot of it for you today for the preseason stuff, but as the season goes on, we'll just maybe look a little harder, see if there's things we can report on that isn't too spoilery. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good. We'll, kind of keep an eye out and just see if there's, some good stuff coming up. I'm not going to lie, I've kind of avoided the news in the past, so I can definitely be a little bit better about trying to stay up on what's coming up without, getting the specific plot, spoilers and all of that. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, myself, I don't like spoilers. I like to stay in the emotion of the episode that just ended, or whatever storyline or character developments are happening. I like to stay in the emotion of the shock or surprise or heart-wrenching, whatever. And if I look ahead and see how they're going to resolve any one of those emotions, for me, I find that it takes away from what I'm feeling. And then when they do resolve it in the episode, I don't have that same feeling. I don't have that same relief or resolve or excitement anymore. So that's kind of why I avoid spoilers myself.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with some of that. I think I'm a little bit more tolerant of some of the new stuff than you are, but I'm not quite on the level of where Cammy is. I know she loves all the behind the scenes stuff, and as much info as she can get, she's on top of it. And I don't like to dig quite that deep, but I think I watch the trailers because they get me excited for the next episode and those sorts of things. And I like to see the casting news and kind of see what's coming. So I'm more tolerant of those types of spoilers, quote unquote. So.
Right.
Which I don't consider spoilers, but I definitely consider behind the scenes stuff to be spoilery, and so I avoid it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we may bring it up a little bit later on, but I think what our plan is to, well, if it's been released to the public in all the social media and news fronts, then, and we've caught wind of it, then we're okay sharing it. We're just not going to dig deep to find out, is that character coming back to life and that kind of stuff. We're not, because that'll ruin the surprise.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right, and then feedback was also high up there on the voting list. Everyone wants their feedback played, and we do make sure to include everyone. as best we can. We try not to leave anyone out. I don't think we have. I think we got a pretty clean record that way.
Yeah, I think there might have been one that fell through the cracks, but I'm pretty sure either you added it before the release or we addressed it in the next episode. I can't really remember.
Exactly. So we'll talk about feedback a little bit later too. The one that did drop a little bit on the voting poll was the nitpicks, but there's still quite a few votes in there. So we will continue to do our nitpicks. We have a lot of fun doing it. It's our one chance to kind of, I guess, vent about something that's just, eating at our skin in a particular episode. So it's fun for us. So we'll keep doing it until we hear you guys say no more.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's still some fun. So, and I feel like it helps keep us from being overly negative throughout the entire thing if we know we have a section where we can just pick the main thing that bugged us and get it off our chest.
Now that's a good point, Harley. Another question we asked was if you follow us on Twitter, and would you want us to be twittering, or, see, that shows how much you actually do it, tweeting more. And a little bit of response. We do have a few people that follow us on Twitter from the Facebook page. I'm not sure if there's more people out there that are not part of the Facebook group to see these polls that might follow us on Twitter. So we're going to try to increase the Twitter activity a little bit more, because Twitter right now, especially since they increased their character count on messages to, I think it was 280 characters, Twitter's really, really exploded lately in feedback activity for especially other podcasts, because I listen to a bunch of shows myself, and they are very heavily involved in the Twitter community with their fans. So we'll see if we can do a little bit more in that sense and see what kind of response we get to it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and then the last thing, we had asked about being interested in merchandise, and there was some interest there. Again, it's something we're looking into, and we may have, some surprises coming for that, but yeah. All right, Harley, let's get into some news. We got some news about the upcoming season, and people are waiting for all of that in case there's things they have not heard about. They're waiting for us to divulge some news, so let's get into that, shall we?
Let's do it.
We interrupt this podcast for a special report.
All right, so the first thing we got to get to is the premiere date is right around the corner. It is October 10th, 2017, which is, I think, next week, isn't it?
It is next week, yeah. That's why I was like, we got to get this preview episode done, because we premiere next week.
Yes, and it's the same time slot, 9 p.m. on Tuesdays following The Flash.
It sure is.
Yeah. But what they've done is they moved Arrow from Wednesday to Thursdays. And I think that's due to CW releasing 2 new shows, and they wanted to just fit it in certain time slots, so they moved Arrow. But it doesn't affect us, so we are Tuesday nights, 9 o'clock, after The Flash.
Yeah, which is good. Keeps it easy.
What's that? Sorry, Harley.
I said that's good. It keeps it easy. Same time slot as the end of last season.
Yeah, and that, of course, means things are going to change for us a little bit, right?
Right. So I think we're thinking of changing our recording times. So normally we recorded on a Friday night, but I think we're going to switch up to Thursday nights. So that means our feedback deadline, we're going to do it later on Wednesday. So let's say midnight on Wednesday nights. Mm-hmm. So that gives everybody a little over 24 hours to watch the episode, mull it over, and kind of send in your thoughts. So, I mean, if you miss that deadline, if you maybe get it to us early on Thursday, we can probably work it in. But if you could keep to that Wednesday deadline, that'll help keep us organized, right?
Exactly. I mean, I work during the day, so if you do happen to send some feedback out Thursday morning or Thursday lunchtime, that's okay. By the time I get home, I'll be able to incorporate it. If it's an email, I can just forward it on to Harley right away, and she can throw it in our notes section. But if it's a voicemail, then we'll have to wait till I get home. But it's just a quick kind of transfer over to the tablet so I can get it ready for the show.
Yep.
Yeah. And what else you got about our season? How many episodes are we getting this year, Harley?
Well, as far as I could tell, I think we have a 17 episode order for season 3. When I was looking for some of the information, I was having a really hard time trying to find it confirmed where they said the amount of episodes that they ordered for this season. But I did find an article that confirmed that we would be on the same model as the previous season. So I think we're at least getting 16, 17 episodes, which is what we had last season. So I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out great last season. I think the only stipulation or the weird thing that I saw is how would that work with their, like their crossover timelines with Flash and Arrow and stuff, because those guys get full 22 to 24 episodes. So it kind of means that I'm guessing that we might have more weeks that don't have an episode just to kind of keep things all evened up. I don't know. I guess it depends on how in tune the timelines are going to be, but 17 episodes is good.
And last year we ended early. We ended before The Flash and Arrow.
That's true.
So, I mean, they kept us all kind of right in line up into the crossover. Then after the crossover, I think we had a couple odd weeks where things got off a little, and then our season ended, but there were still at least, I think, 3 episodes left of The Flash and Arrow. So, well, probably be the same, maybe be the same deal this year. I don't know. Depends on how intertwined they become.
Yeah, that's true. No, at least it's 17. I mean, a full 22 would be fantastic. We're not following the Game of Thrones, Walking Dead type models where they only do 10 episodes a season and then they're gone for a year and a half. So at least we're getting 17, which is good. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Now, what do we got next for our little news tidbits?
Well, I found a synopsis for season 3. I've read it, and there is actually a whole bunch of information out on the Arrow Wikia page, which kind of covers all of the shows in the DC Arrowverse realm. So if you are curious and you're looking for more detailed information, we'll put the link to that in our show notes, so you can go over there on our blog posts and you can kind of check it out if you want more of the details than we're going to talk about. But they do have the official synopsis, so I didn't know if you're interested in maybe at least reading that part, and then if people want to dig in more deeply into confirmed plot points, they can go to the link in the show notes for the wiki page. Yeah,
exactly. Well, I read through the synopsis myself, and I'm going to read it here because I don't think it's really spoiler. It just kind of is an overall breakdown of the main arc of the season. So, I will give the warning. It's not really spoilery, but it does give away a few plot points and what's kind of coming during the season. As I said, it's just a breakdown of the main arc of the season. And as well, anything that we talk about here has already been released to the media, so unless you got lost in time, you may have heard or read these press releases already yourself. So,
yeah. And it's also in the trailer, right? All of this information is in the trailer as well. So if you've seen that,
that's true.
Sound familiar.
That's true. All right. Well, in my best announcer voice, here we go. After the defeat of Eobard Thawne and his equally nefarious Legion of Doom, the Legends face a new threat created by their actions at the end of last season. In revisiting a moment in time that they had already participated in, they have essentially fractured the timeline and created anachronisms, a scattering of people, animals, and objects all across time. Our team must find a way to return all the anachronisms to their original timelines before the time stream falls apart. But before our legends can jump back into action, Rip Hunter and his newly established Time Bureau call their methods into question. With the Time Bureau effectively the new sheriffs in town, the legends disband, until Mick Rory discovers one of them in the middle of his well-deserved vacation in Aruba. Seeing this as an opportunity to continue their time-traveling heroics, Sara wastes no time in getting the legends back together. And there you go.
I think it sounds fun. I'm excited. I'm also excited that, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, but that Rip is not necessarily on our team.
No. Yeah, we'll get into that when a little bit farther down the notes here.
Yeah.
So the other thing that we can bring up is it's been released a little bit information about the upcoming crossover, which we know all fans of the DC TV universe are quite excited about every year. And the crossover they have confirmed is 2 nights, so 2 episodes, 2 hours each between all 4 shows. So you're going to start with a Supergirl and Arrow 2-hour event, and then finish with Flash and Legends the second night.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting which ones they decided to mix up, so that's kind of cool. It's going to be called Crisis on Earth X, or I guess Earth 10, if you want to read it that way. I read it as Earth X.
Oh, right. Okay.
And as far as I read, it sounds like it will have Supergirl at the center of it all due to the outcry that she wasn't really included in it last year. Yeah. But apparently they're fighting doppelgangers of themselves from this Earth X. So I'm thinking like a Black Arrow and maybe not so much a Reverse Flash, but an evil Barry and an evil Supergirl. I'm not sure. That's all they've released so far. Mm-hmm. So that kind of sounds a lot of fun.
That's one word for it.
Oh, we got someone maybe not looking forward to it.
Someone doesn't watch Supergirl. Someone's not a big fan of the Supergirl actress. And it's Supergirl centric. So, needless to say, I'm not as excited as I usually am for the crossover events. Now, the doppelgangers, that could be pretty cool, or it could be really confusing. So, I don't know. It honestly kind of sounds like a huge mess, and I'm actually not looking forward to it at the current moment. So maybe once they hype it a little bit more, I'll get excited. But right now, I'm just like, oh. Well, it's like the Dominators all over again.
That's true to villainous form. You can't always be happy, smiley, can you? Although, I mean, Harley Quinn, you are kind of goofy, but...
yeah.
Well, who knows? This could be misleading information, and I may have read it wrong. That's just the little tidbits that I got that I pieced together. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't, when I said Supergirl's at the center role, I think they're just gonna, like, it might be her and her sister, I think, are kind of heavily involved. I don't know if the whole story is going to revolve around Supergirl or not.
Like a Supergirl plot. I hope not, because I'll be super lost, because I'm not watching it. I'm not planning to, so.
Well, I'll let you know if in the episode or 2 previous to it, if it's something important that you're going to need to watch. I'll let you know.
Yeah, just tell me the details. That's perfectly fine. Spoil away on Supergirl, guys. Spoil away.
So Harley said she will include the link to this wiki page. That will have a lot of the info that we just basically read off, and it'll have a little bit more info, which we are choosing to not share. And some of that comes down to casting, which is our next point, because there is some Legends casting changes. And,
there are.
Yeah. So we're getting our cast back.
We are getting our cast back. Do you want me to run through the main cast?
Sure. Yeah, just run through the main cast, and we got something at the end to add to it.
All right. So in the main cast, we have Victor Garber, Brandon Routh, Katie Lotz, Franz Dramé, Maisie Richardson Sellers, Nick Zano, Amy Pemberton, Dominic Purcell, and Neil McDonough. Which I'm pretty excited about.
So he's been...
I love Neil McDonough.
Yeah. And those are our main guys. That's everybody.
Yeah, and they're all returning. Those are all names that we know. But do you want to tell someone about, or tell them about the new person that has been announced as the main cast?
Yeah, there is a new character, played by, these names sometimes, Tala Ash? Or Tala Ashi? How would you pronounce that? Tala?
Tala Ashi?
Tala Ashi. Okay, sorry. That's Tala Ash is what it looks like. She's going to be playing Adriana Tomaz, who is also known as Isis. Now, in the comic books, there was 3 different versions of her over the years throughout the different comic iterations, but they've all been fairly similar, so I'm kind of wondering which they're going to be pulling from. She wears an amulet that she can call upon the god of Isis to grant her power simply by saying, "I am Isis." And it basically gives her superhuman strength, speed, and invulnerability, and she can also control the elements like fire, water, electricity, things like that. So kind of think something like Wonder Woman with her abilities, but with elemental control added in. Now, the biggest storyline of hers, I think the longest running one, she was married to Black Adam, which, if nobody knows, Black Adam was kind of Shazam's arch nemesis for a long time, and then he kind of settled down and wasn't so much of a bad guy. And she's also part of the Marvel family, and I don't mean Marvel Comics, I mean Marvel as in the Shazam family. Their last name is Marvel. Because there's the Shazam kids.
That. Okay.
Yeah, there's like Mary Marvel, and I can't even remember all of them, but their last name is Marvel. And that's the Shazam family. In DC Comics, everywhere there's the Flash family, there's the Superman family, there's the Bat family. They all have, there's like 5 or 6 of them that all have similar powers and abilities. That's funny how DC did that. So this is the Shazam family, and she, being married to Black Adam, she was part of the Marvel family. So it's going to be interesting to see how much of any of that they use and which story they derive her from for the show, and whether how far they're actually going to use her powers. Because I think being kind of a Wonder Woman-like ability, like she's as strong as Wonder Woman, so she's quite powerful. I don't know if that's a little too much for this show, so they might tone it down a little bit. We'll have to see. But I'm excited. I'm curious. It's cool to have a new superhero added to our team, because we were talking about that last season. You know, what heroes do we want to bring on the show? And we kind of speculated who would be good. You know, we had talked about, getting Kid Flash over here, or, something like that. So Jesse Quick. Yeah, exactly. So.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. That'll be fun. I'm excited to kind of see what they do with her character. I think it'll be really interesting.
Yeah. Now, as we said, there's going to be some recurring cast members, but this is information we're going to skip over because it kind of gives away maybe a few surprises. If you really want to know who's coming and what's down the line for the show, you can go to that link that Harley will provide you, and it actually lists all of them. But yeah, I think we're going to save that here because I think it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, well, everyone will know at least one name because there's one person we clearly did not mention in the main cast.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, everyone else is. Some of it has been speculated on our Facebook page, but if you want to know the details, go to the link in the show notes. So.
Right. All right. So there's been a trailer, a season 3 promotional trailer making the rounds, and if you have not seen it yet, Harley will also include the link for that, so you can go watch it. We're going to give her a bit of a reaction here to it. So the trailer, it does a good job of not really showing much to kind of keep wraps on what's coming, other than what we discussed in the synopsis about them chasing down these anachronisms. And Matt, I was surprised I was able to say that word.
I was quite impressed.
So it shows some scenes from what I guess is the first episode, with them being at a circus. But again, it really only shows a few of the comical scenes and keeps the mystery of what's actually coming first in that episode. Although it does hint at Rip hiding knowledge of a greater impending evil coming their way. We also see glimpses of 2 new characters, but not much in the way of what they're all about. So all in all, it's a reminder of how much fun this show is, and that we're in for a zany wild ride once again this season. And that's kind of the feeling I got. How about you, Harley?
Oh, yeah, totally. I think this whole circus stuff is going to be a lot of fun, and I really hope it kind of goes over a couple episodes, just because I feel like they've promoted it kind of a lot. So it would be nice to see like a couple episodes that was centered around the circus. But also it looks like they've kind of continued to embrace the humor, which is great. And I think that's something that this show really needs. It's supposed to be a little bit more fun. I mean, it can have its serious moments and it can tackle its serious issues, but at the end of the day, it needs to come back to that humor and that lightness and just that fun. They just need to continue to have fun with it.
Right.
So I really like that. That was good to see in the trailer. I definitely think Rip is hiding quite a bit. Like, there's a lot more coming for his character this season. I did hear some things at DragonCon, and this doesn't really relate to it, but there's just a feeling that I get that he is kind of like not necessarily a friend of our team, that maybe he's a little bit more opposing our team. The Synopsis kind of hinted at that a little too. So I don't know. I kind of just get that feeling, which is exciting because it's not quite evil Rip, but it's not, awkward Rip or Rip trying to lead and failing. Like, I think it'll be a good fit for him.
Well, when you say Rip is hiding a lot, you mean hiding information, not hiding from the team. He's hiding information.
Yeah, like hiding information. I think he either knows stuff or, I don't know, or maybe he's not necessarily like intentionally hiding stuff. He's just like, kind of just like not approving of the way that they do things. I mean, he's always called them reckless, so.
Yeah. So this actually really brings I think it's going to be interesting. We'll talk. We're going to talk a little bit more about the characters in depth, but I'm kind of there with you.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. I kind of had a question from the trailer. They introduced Kuwasa as a villain, which I just don't know anything about that character. Is that a Vixen villain?
That is a good question. I did not have a chance to look up that name to find out.
Yeah, I didn't either. Okay. Well, someone can either write in and tell us, or we can look it up for the premiere.
It sounds like it. I mean, Kuwasa sounds very African in origin. And,
it does, yeah.
That's where Vixen's from. So I'm guessing it's going to be kind of somebody she has to deal with, which is cool, because that'll give us a little more fleshed out feeling with our storyline with Vixen. So that's good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting.
Well, you kind of hinted on that, so why don't we dive into our characters? We got our idea for character discussion was that we're going to talk about how they were at the beginning of Season 2 and where they kind of went, like how their story arcs went, how their growth and stuff over the course of the season. Did they change a lot? Did they learn? Did their stories evolve, I guess is one way you can put it. So we're going to just go briefly through each character, each of our main cast, and give you an overall feel of how we thought they did.
Yeah. Well, should we start with our captain?
Let's start with the captain.
All right. So Miss Sara Lance, she went through a huge evolution over the season, I feel like. I mean, we had the early episodes of the season. She was still really rough around the edges, like kind of bordering almost on like annoying and like some of the things she was doing. Because she was just concerned with her revenge on Damien Dark. Like, she was completely consumed by it, and that's all she thought about was how she could, avenge her sister's death. So,
right.
But we see early on that she has to step into the captain role, and but she's only concerned with her own agenda. I mean, a couple of times it comes at the expense of the team and the mission, which was kind of disappointing to see because it kind of harkened back to Rip putting his own agenda before everybody else's.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's because she didn't quite have control over her emotions. She was very reactive and not... Yeah, she didn't think very often.
No.
But kind of as the season goes along, we did see her become a much stronger leader, able to make decisions that the team respected, and they even defended her decisions when others didn't agree. I felt they really started taking to her being the new captain and listening to her commands, unlike how they did with Rip, because throughout Season 1, they almost always argued with him. But with Sara, she really fell into suiting the captain position and leading the team well, and I think they really ended up respecting her and not even questioning her orders. They just said, "Yep, let's do it."
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think in the end they respected her way more than they ever respected Rip. And I think it just has to do with the fact that she was eventually able to set aside her personal agenda and focus on the team and truly lead them as a captain should.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even for us as viewers, I think we even gained respect for her as a leader too. And we all, I mean, by the end of the season, everybody was like, yeah, who's Rip? Like, let's get rid of him because Sara is awesome. Right? Yeah. So.
Yeah. I think I was the only person that was kind of like, oh, I still kind of like Rip, but just not as the captain.
All right. So moving on, I think we almost ordered these in who grew the most, I think, over the season. It looks like the way we...
That was kind of what I was going for when I was setting out my outline. And actually, I think I'm missing a character.
Yeah, we're missing Firestorm, basically. But we can add him in here. I know exactly where he fits.
Yeah.
But second in line, I think, for growth was our good old friend Mick.
Yeah.
I think he probably had maybe the most growth and change over the season. It was basically the same path that Snart took in season 1, where we see him go from the hard-nosed, out only for himself, loner kind of personality to the team's strongest supporter and the guy they can rely on. Often we see Mick slapping the team around that they should work together and have each other's backs. When they're kind of scattered and acting stupid, he's the one kind of smacking around saying, hey, come on, guys.
Yeah.
We also see him start to express his emotions and in his own way show that he cares for everyone. He was often the voice of wisdom when everyone else was behaving immature or stupid, which I thought was so surprising and so funny at the same time, but it fit him so well. It wasn't like out of character. It was like he had the only clear vision when nobody else did.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely interesting because we got such like an odd evolution of him over season 1 that carried into season 2, but we didn't really fully understand, I think, until the second or third episode when they finally told us, hey, there's tech in Mick's head that had made him Kronos, and because we're all like, well, why is he being so stupid and why doesn't he remember anything? And then we realized that it had been deactivated at some point. And so that sort of sent him backwards in a lot of ways, which was kind of a good thing because it gave him the chance to re-evolve almost, but on a better path.
Right.
So, like you said, he took like the Snart path that Snart took in season 1. So that was kind of interesting. But, I mean, he eventually, he comes around. He wants to be a team player. He just wants to be part of the team and realizes that he needs them as much as they need him, even when they don't realize that they need him until it's too late. And then he switches teams, and then he comes back to everybody and made me happy.
Yeah.
I hated the episode when everybody was just on him like all the time. I was like, come on, just give him a break.
Well, did he end up leaving the team for a little bit there?
Yeah, that was that episode. I think it was the Fellowship of the Spear episode.
Yeah, it actually made me very upset with the team because they would not let up on him. And I felt for the poor guy. Like, he's doing what he can to help him out, and he's trying to be sneaky behind the scenes, tricking the bad guys, and they're just not buying it. And, oh, man. I
know. It made me angry.
And yeah, I mean, finally they let him prove himself in the end, and they finally let bygones be bygones and accepted him fully.
Yeah.
So it was a great story arc for Mick to see him have to go through all of that. So to see what they're going to do with him this season. I mean, going back to the trailer, I mean, it looks like he's back up to his old self because there's a scene where there's a clown juggling or something, and you see him jump out of the crowd with a hammer. Die, clown!
I know. I was like, oh, it was worth it.
He must have a fear of clowns from being a kid or something, and that's, I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't eat. That's why I'm like, I want to see more of the circus stuff. Like, I want it to be more than one episode. Oh, it'll be fun.
All right, so moving on is Vixen.
Now, this was interesting because she was also initially only out for revenge. That's the only reason she stowed away on our ship, because she wanted to avenge Rex's murder.
That is so true.
Yeah, and I had forgotten about that. But I at least got to rewatch the first episode of this season, and so that was definitely kind of a prominent thing in that episode. So it was just really interesting to see how her character, it does evolve and it moves on. It moves on from Rex completely because there's a whole other romance with Nate that we do not need to get into. And I would be quite okay if that died, but I have a feeling that it won't because it's the CW. So I'm just going to have to move on. It wasn't as distracting as the Ray and Hawkgirl romance, so I can forgive them for that.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, she grew on me for sure. At first I was not sure about her character, but I really enjoyed her by the end.
Yeah, me too. She did grow on me as she developed and as the actress got used to the role and she started developing relationships with the rest of the team. I mean, she grew from using the team as her path to revenge, like you said, to becoming a valued member of the team. Mm-hmm. And she was also a good voice for reason. Quite often I think it was coming from an older timeline. She wasn't really burdened with the modern ways of thinking, or is that bickering, like the team usually did. She never really got caught up in the bickering. She was much more from, because she's like 3 generations earlier than they are if you're looking at the actual years of when they're
that's true.
When she's from. So I think her ways of thinking is quite a bit different than theirs, so she never got caught up in a lot of that. So she was a very good voice for reason. And, to her, you could see that the bickering stuff could be pretty trivial at times, and she just didn't want anything to do with it. So that's where I saw her stand apart from the team, and I really started liking how, she kind of helped them through some of those situations.
Yeah. Me too. She was a good addition at the end.
Mm-hmm. All right, next is, I think, a fan favorite. He's one of my favorites after Mick, is Ray, Mr. Adam.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites too.
Right.
But the big thing that he goes through, especially early on, is that he has to find his inner superhero. Because he's not superpowered and he doesn't have assassin credentials or like a superpowered totem necklace thing. I mean, he's got his suit and that's pretty much it. And so he goes through a lot of doubt early on in the season, especially when Vixen comes on board, because she does not sugarcoat it at all. She's like, you are not a hero. She's like, you have a suit. That's the only thing that makes you special. So when he loses that I know. So when he loses that, I mean, he really kind of has to come to terms with how he can be a contributor to the team and how he can truly be a superhero, even without his suit. So that was pretty interesting to watch him go.
Oh, totally. I mean, we saw he's the Boy Scout of the team. Mm-hmm. And we saw him have to grow up a little and learn that he is more than just his suit, which also was a great story arc for a character's journey to becoming a hero. And what I really always liked about Ray is that he kept his young-at-heart charm, always finding the joy in whatever they were doing and realizing that they get to experience some pretty amazing things. And I call back to, when he's on the moon. And they're also serious about the mission. He's like, guys, I'm on the moon. Like, come on.
That's one of my favorite quotes. It does every single time. The music, the build up, it's like, copy. All I get is a copy? I'm on the freaking moon.
And that's what I mean. He always had, he never ever lost that. And that's part of what made me just love him so much. I mean, even in that episode when they're back in King Arthur times with Excalibur and he electrifies his sword, and he's like, don't call it a lightsaber, and he's all excited to use his sword. He was so much fun. If I were an actual character in this superhero, I would be like him, and he would be my best friend, because I'm totally like that in real life. That not as smart as he is, but just that giddy excitement, like a kid, and with all the gadgets, it's just fun.
Yeah, I love Ray. He's fun. Well, another one, speaking of Ray, I mean, that we didn't talk a ton about yet is Nate.
Yeah.
And he did have an interesting arc. It wasn't as broad as some of the others, but I mean, he went from being a hemophiliac to being a man of steel, so that's kind of a pretty big shift.
That's a pretty big change.
Pretty big deal. I loved the bromance with Ray that developed over the entire season. Like, the two of them together was great by the end of it.
Well, it became like a sibling rivalry at points, too, because they were starting to get, like, very, bickery with each other, competitive, or trying to one-up each other. Yeah, exactly. But, yeah, those are some of the best scenes when they were bromancing out. There was some just really, really great scenes. That was just pure entertainment.
Yeah, and it was nice to have the addition of a historian. I think you said it a few times over the last season. It was nice to have almost like a real lifetime detective when they're on the ground, or like if they can't necessarily access Gideon immediately, someone who actually knows history and knows what's supposed to be happening.
Yeah.
So can actually detect the anomalies or anachronisms, because if they get overwritten in the timeline, like Gideon doesn't know the difference necessarily. So
no, and he always did, because he knows the history so well. And then pulling back to like what you said, like he did have a bit of a hero's journey himself, because when he first joined the team, he was just that historian.
Yeah.
And he wanted so badly to be a hero like his grandfather, but he didn't know what to do. He's like, I know books. What am I supposed to do? And it wasn't until he got the ability to become Steel, that he really, and then we saw kind of the same boyish charm come out of him too. He was so excited about that, and oh my god, this is so cool, and kept testing himself, like when he stopped the train and things like that. So we saw him. It was a very, very much an origin story, because we saw him gain his powers and then have to test them out and see what they could do, and find out his limits.
Yeah, that was cool to see his origin in a lot of ways.
Yeah. He's also a fan favorite, too. I think he very quickly jumped to the front of the pack as one of the favorites.
Oh, yeah. And I loved the way that the actor portrayed him. He always looked like he was having so much fun. It was great.
So true. All right, so moving on from Nate, we've got Firestorm, which is actually 2 characters.
Right.
We got Martin Stein.
Yeah, well, I guess the biggest thing with him this season was his daughter, and how, he ultimately was able to handle that. I mean, he tried for half an episode to be the team leader, and that was completely disastrous.
Yeah, that's true.
So we figured out that doesn't work very well. We didn't see a lot of him and Jax as Firestorm, though, which was kind of disappointing, but I get it. Budgetary reasons, I'm sure. Most
likely, yeah. I mean, there was a couple episodes where he was prominent and you knew they blew the budget on, but then there was quite a few episodes where we didn't see him at all. And that's probably because they were using Steel or they were using Ray, and, you can only do so much. But, I mean, Martin Stein himself, did we really see him? He's probably one of the least... Yeah, there was the whole storyline with his daughter, but it wasn't really character growth. It was just like a character change, something new he had to deal with. I don't know if Martin Stein... I think that maybe the parts that he grew the most was how to... And I guess we could say this with Jax too, is the two of them, is how they can better communicate with each other.
True.
And understand each other. Because, I mean, one guy's pretty much a high school kid, and, Martin Stein's a professor, so there's quite an age gap, and they both have different upbringings, so it's quite a mix for them to have to learn to understand each other. So as a pair, as a duo, we did see some change and some growth there, where they started figuring out how to communicate better. I say that's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, and I think that was probably the most development we saw from the two of them, and true to their character's nature, it kind of had to happen together. I mean, we saw a couple of things with Jax. We had the whole slavery episode, which, of him having to deal with that and coming to terms with not really being able to change history, even, for the better, even eliminating, something that was terrible. I mean,
right.
You can't just completely wipe it out. I mean, you don't know what will ultimately change, and so that was interesting to kind of see him process that over the course of the season. But other than that, I mean, just, the growth between him and Martin was pretty much the big thing.
Yeah. So we'll have to see what they do with those two this year, if their Firestorm's going to be utilized anymore, or just continue Martin Stein as himself, he's a brilliant scientist, so they really need that. He's very helpful that way, in that sense. And they're continuing to develop Jax as the one who's keeping Gideon in good shape, right? So.
Yeah, he's the ship's mechanic.
Yeah. All right, so one last guy, which was kind of he was around the whole season. It's just half the time he was a bad guy, half the time he was a good guy, but we got to talk about Rip a little bit.
Yeah. Rip. It was weird because we got the start of the season where we didn't first know what happened to him. And then we kind of realized that he essentially sacrificed himself for the team in a lot of ways until he realized he survived, and then did the whole Spear of Destiny thing. Mm-hmm. And so that was pretty crazy. And so for a while we just, got that redemption for his character, which was nice. The captain actually saved the team and put, the team in front of his own agenda, which was a complete change from everything we saw last season. And then we didn't see him for several episodes, and then he didn't know who he was, and then he was evil, which was a ton of fun. And then he kind of came back to the team but didn't fit in. So it was a really weird arc for Rip. I don't know how much development happened per se. Just a lot of stuff happened.
Well, I guess the only development was really at the end when he kind of realized he is not a good fit to lead the team. And that's why he left. So I think any development all happened in those few moments once they saved him and made him a good guy again, that he's like, yeah, okay, Sara, you're doing a much better job than I ever did. And that was acceptance out of him. So I think that's really all for development. But, yeah, it was funny bringing back to what you said. I mean, we kind of griped about how fast they announced his return because he left, what? We weren't sure how, is he gone for good or whatever, and then they announced his return real quick, so they didn't even leave any time for us to ponder or miss him after the way he said goodbye, because it was actually a really good goodbye.
It was.
Yeah, very emotional. Yeah. But we now know that he's leading the new team of time cops, and he isn't always happy with how the Legends deal with their situations, so I think this is going to be good for Rip as a character. Because in the first half of the season, when he was a bad guy, we loved it, and we loved getting to see him, play that part. So maybe this will allow him to tap into that a little bit and be somewhat of an antagonist for our team this season, which I think will be fun.
Yeah, I think it'll be a ton of fun, and I just based on the trailer and what they hint at there, I definitely think that's the way they're going. So I think it'll be pretty fun.
Yes.
Be kind of like not like the main villain, but kind of like a side antagonist, like you said. That's a good word for it. Mm-hmm. So,
and
not a villain, but
I'm sure because of his connection to the team, I'm sure there's going to be moments where he actually works with them or helps them or saves them or whatever. There's got to be something like that. I can't see them becoming enemies. There's
true.
They're just going to have
be
different ways of how they deal with things.
Yeah.
Yep. Which kind of jumps into our last point, talking about the Legends team as a whole.
Yeah. So, did they actually change over the course of the season? Because, in the very beginning, the first thing the JSA points out is that the Legends, pay no attention to their meddling or to the consequences of what they're doing. They're just going about their thing, trying to save the day, I guess, in their way. But sometimes I wonder if they're causing more damage than not. So I don't know. Did that actually change over the course of the season, or is that the charm of the team?
Well, it probably is a little bit of the charm of the team, but I think they simply didn't care, or things just got so out of hand to a point that they couldn't do much about it anyway, and then they didn't care about the consequences. So, yeah, I mean, look at our team. They're a ragtag bunch of individuals. The only ones that would ever, if you look at the team, the only ones who actually would care about rules would be Ray and Nate. Sara doesn't care about rules. She comes from the League of Assassins. Mick and Snart, when he was there, they obviously don't care about rules of any kind. Maybe Stein. I guess Stein would want to follow the rules, but Jack's being a teenage guy, probably, not so much. There's probably going to be a good argument between the two of them. So, yeah, you look at the team. Yeah, I think the guys who don't want to follow the rules are going to win that battle. There's more of them, I think.
Probably. Probably. So, I guess that's half the fun. It was just kind of interesting. I just thought we should kind of look at them as a team and see if anything actually changed. Yeah, I don't think it did.
I don't think it really did. All right, Harley. Well, what would an episode of Tomorrow's Legends be without having some quotes of the week? And we actually ended our season last season with a quote of the season episode where we gathered the highest voted quotes throughout the course of the season, and then we relisted them and had people vote again on their favorite one of the entire season. And guess what? After all summer long, we have those winners here for you now. Which is I'm excited to play these because it's gonna bring us right back into some moments of season 2 that were either hilarious or pretty heavy on the emotions. And I think it'll just instantly reconnect us to our Legends team again and put us right back in the mood for the show and just anticipating next week's premiere.
Definitely. I'm excited to kind of get back in the mood and gear up for the premiere.
All right. Well, let's get this started.
Shape out an eagle!
So we're going to start off with the quote of the season for the funny quotes, Harley. And tell us, do you remember this one? What was the winning quote for the funny side?
The winning quote, no surprise, it's tell it like it is.
All right, so before we play it, what do you remember about this one? What made this one so special for to be able to win the entire season?
It's Mick's intro. That's all you need to say.
That's all you need to say. It's hilarious, so we'll just play it. Here it is.
Seriously, you idiots haven't figured this out by now. It all started when we blew up the Time Pigs, the Time Masters. Now history's all screwed up, and it's up to us to unscrew it up. But half the time we screw things up even worse. So don't call us heroes, we're something else. We're legends. Who writes this crap anyway?
Still funny.
Still funny. It's so perfect.
How that tied right into our last point we just talked about, how the Legends team did not change over the course of the season, and Mick just spelled it right out.
Yep.
That's
God.
So good. Just loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Well, now it's time to get a little bit more serious.
Now it's time to get serious, and are we ever going to get serious? Because it ended up having a 3-way tie for serious scene of the season, and we were deciding which one should we pick, and we ultimately said, you know what, let's get back into the feeling of the show, into the emotion, and some of the real deeply moving moments that this show had. So we're going to play all 3 of them, and this should bring us right back to our Legends team. So the first one, what do we got, Harley? What's the first one?
First one is a partner's worth.
Perhaps you've chosen the wrong analogy. Your partner is dead.
Well, I'm still on the ship.
Your point?
You're not exactly a spring chicken, Professor.
Your point!
My point is you're not going to be around for too much longer. And Jax has to learn how to do this stuff himself. Stop treating him like a kid and more like a partner.
Yeah. That's one of those times where Mick is slapping the crew around to get it together. His wisdom is, it's amazingly really accurate.
And blunt.
And blunt. And you wouldn't expect any more from Mick than pure bluntness.
That's true.
My point! You're not going to be around much longer. I mean, you can't get any more blunt than that.
Nope, sure can't.
All right, Harley, so what is our second one in this three-way tie?
Ultimate sacrifice.
Don't do this!
I am so sorry, Nathaniel.
No, you open that door, the explosive decompression will suck you out.
If I don't, you will all die.
I can do it. Let me do it. I have powers now.
No, I won't let you risk your life. I have fulfilled my duty, protecting my piece of the spear. But I'm just a grunt. Now it's your turn. You can figure out a way to destroy the spear. Don't let it ruin another person's life.
Your son is at mission control. He's there. He's waiting for you. Come on.
Give him a message for me. Tell him I'm sorry for leaving.
Don't. Please don't. Please don't.
Whoa, gave me chills.
I know, that was a heavy one. It was good, though.
Yeah, that moment when he had to say goodbye to his grandfather. And
Yeah.
Oh, if that doesn't endear you to Nate, nothing will, you cold-hearted villain.
I love Nate.
All right. One last heart-wrenching moment to relive and bring us back to our show. Which one is that, Harley?
Timeless.
Gideon, plot a course for the crucifixion.
Yes.
Don't you dare, Gideon.
Look, throughout history, there are certain moments whose integrity are crucial. The birth, life, and death of Jesus Christ are all such moments. Any interference, no matter how minuscule, could have disastrous consequences for the time stream. We cannot go there. Ever.
Oh, okay. So that one wasn't so much heart-wrenching. That was more pinch your cheek, slap you in the face, like, hello, this is something that you cannot mess with.
Yeah, it was a little bit more of Rip's key knowledge of time travel.
Exactly. Which is cool. I guess that's cool that one got in there with the tied votes. It kind of opened your eyes to the seriousness of some of these situations or scenarios that they're caught in. That they can't just mess things up as they please to try to fix something. They've got to sometimes go in with a gentle hand.
Yep, exactly. Which our team is not good at.
No. Again, look at who our team consists of. All right. Well, we don't actually have any feedback because this is our premiere show, and we didn't expect to have any, but we weren't going to include any feedback on this episode. But we wanted to remind everybody how to send in feedback, and we have an email address. That's tomorrowslegends@gmail.com. And just remember that tomorrow is spelled with one R. That was just in conjunction with our Twitter handle because Twitter had a limit on characters, so that's why tomorrow is spelled with one R. So tomorrowslegends@gmail.com. What we love you to do is send us a voice recording. Usually you can use, most of your phones these days have a built-in recording app, so you just record a voicemail and then send it off through email program. Yep. That's our favorite way to hear from you guys, but we'll also accept emails, of course. If you guys want to type out an email to the same address, please do that, and we'll always get it on the show. Even if we get 50 of them, we'll dedicate an episode to feedback.
It's going to be a long episode.
Exactly.
So buckle.
There's also other ways to get a hold of us if you want to chat with us on our Facebook page, Tomorrow's Legends. Definitely we're always in there all the time, so get that page as a great fun community. And it's fun to interact in there as well.
Yes, always lots of great discussion.
Yeah. And to kind of reiterate that,
if you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to tomorrowslegends@gmail.com. That's spelled with one R. You can also reach us on Twitter at Tomorrow's Legends, also with one R. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/Tomorrow's Legends and become part of the community.
Well, Harley, I think that about wraps it up for our preseason kickoff episode. The engine is warmed up. Coordinates are plotted. Let's get this shit moving. Gideon, are you all set for takeoff?
Yes, Captain.
But before we leave, you have a chance to join us.
Would you like to be a guest host on Tomorrow's Legends? Well, then just apply to our show. You can send us your resume, a cover letter, maybe a small bribe. Just kidding. No, I'm not kidding. Well, I'll take bribes. No.
Of course you will.
Actually, if you just send us an email and you tell us kind of why you'd like to come on the show and be a guest, if there's certain things you'd like to discuss, or if you even have any experience on a podcast, and we'll get in touch with you and kind of work something out. So we thought that would be fun to have some people come on and join us this season.
Yeah, exactly. So that idea is, if you guys really want to be a guest host, we've had guests on here before. They've been former podcasters or other podcasters. But if you're a fan and you just want to get on here, you think it sounds like it'd be a lot of fun, then definitely get in touch with us and we'll talk to you and have you on. And we're thinking, if we get over the course of the season, if we maybe once a month we have someone come on, I think that'd be a lot of fun. It'd be a lot of fun to have someone in there with us, and you can get your taste of podcasting.
Mix it up a little bit.
Yeah. But if you wanted to just get in touch with us personally, you can reach us on our personal Twitter handles. You can reach The Flash here at CyberTiger17. That's SIBER, like Siberian Tiger, CyberTiger17. And Harley, she is called at Jess in Atlanta.
Super simple.
Super simple. So, I'm thinking, Jess, I'm pretty excited.
I'm super excited.
Yeah, like this next week is, it can't come soon enough. Where they're going to start off with, if it's that circus episode or right from the crashed ship in that, that cityscape where the T-Rexes run around. I'm assuming that's where they have to start.
They have to.
Because you can't leave that cliffhanger like that.
Yeah.
We have to see how to get out of there, so... Anyway, guys, I'm hoping you all join us next week. Remember to send in some feedback on our new feedback deadline, Wednesday by midnight, and we can't wait to have you on the show with us. This is The Flash, signing off till next week.
And this is Harley Quinn. I'm out.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network. Find our podcast in iTunes. You can leave us a rating and review. We'd love that. As well, we can now be found in Google Play Music.